So one thing that I've noticed in my ongoing debates with people online over what is occurring in the world today is, and by that I mean like the pandemic and the totalitarian overreaches, all that stuff, is when I start digging deeper with them, there isn't much substance. And when I get all of the way to the bottom, I find as the root of a construction that professes to be rationality is an entirely emotional foundation. And again, I have been surprised to find that around this emotional foundation is one primary fear, and that is the fear of Donald Trump. This has really struck me as highly peculiar, because how is it that all of this seemingly intelligent reasoning could all be derived from this root of fear of Donald Trump? Where does this obsession come from? All of this started back when the media really wanted to destroy Donald Trump. I can't remember the media behaving in this kind of distorted, irrational way prior to Donald Trump. And it may have happened, but not in this systemic kind of fashion. And I get why people have issues with Donald Trump. He's clearly narcissistic and has a bit of a megalomaniac streak to him. And, when you look at his politics, America was doing better, objectively speaking. But when you look at his personality, then it was problematic, shall we say, or distasteful in many ways. Childlike, a bit like a high school bully. And all of those labels, I actually think he deserved, at least to some extent. It is odd to me that despite all of this distortion in his personality, the narcissistic traits, that the surface of his personality has become all-encompassing, and there is absolutely no capacity to look at what was the country like when he was actually in charge. And because of this fascination with personality, this kind of celebrity distaste or worship, then this lack of depth seeing has been everywhere in the media. And so the people who have followed what is going on in the world through their television sets, they have been giving scandal after scandal after scandal about the horrible things that Donald Trump did. And whether it's Lafayette Square incident, or if it's the so-called insurrection, or if it's the incident with the war cemetery in France where, he had some hair problems due to rain, whether it was this handicapped journalist that he supposedly taunted, all of these stories, if you actually look at what happened and you contrast it with the media narrative, there's almost no correlation at all. It was, in fact, a fake narrative. And so Donald Trump was right in calling it fake news. There's just no objective reality confirms it. What I think in my head, subjectively speaking, of course, could be a different story. But now any person who has been following the coverage of these scandals, who were to actually spend 5 minutes to go back to the sources that reported the scandals in the first place, would find them debunked by the very same sources. And yet the narrative prevails, even though it has been debunked by the very same media outlets that peddled them in the first place. Just go and look at the Lafayette Square incident where supposedly they I don't know, water cannon or whatever it was against some Black Lives Matter activist because he wanted a photo op with a Bible against the church, something like that. Not what happened, actually. So here was the original departure from objective reality. And since that connection to objective reality hasn't been restored by going back and integrating the debunking of the stories, then now there is an actual, seemingly permanent departure from reality. This departure from reality has been driven by this archetype called the Trumper, or the alt-rightist, or the QAnoner, or whatever. And so whatever somebody may think or say that is contrary to the consensus narrative will now be lumped into this box, this Trumper box. And people are terrified to end up in this box, legitimately terrified, because, you know, oh, I don't want to be a Nazi, I don't want to be a domestic terrorist, I don't want to be like a crazy Looney Tunes conspiracy theorist, so I will choose the story, the version of reality that is exactly opposite to that which is being ascribed to this archetype of the Trumper. And this is where the archetype of the Trumper or the Trumpist, whatever you call it, has become a catch-all for all things evil in the world that now, today, is leveraged for crowd control. People are terrified of this label. Legitimately terrified. Because if there's one thing people in general don't like, it's conflict. And also, since we live in a culture where emotional self-regulation is not really a thing, that I'm able to hold my anger, or hold my grief, or hold my passion, or hold it without like puking it over everyone, then the mere emergence of some inner turmoil being connected to this catch-all archetype of the Trumper will now trigger a drastic measure in order to get away from that label as quickly as possible and return to consensus reality, to return to the place where I'm not being demonized or attacked online and by my family. This archetype has been meticulously constructed over years of disinformation. Over years of ascribing all dissonant voices to the right-wing extremism category, to alt-right. This is not okay, that we have created a culture where you are a Nazi if you address objective reality. And so we live in a very strange world now where the fear of being a Nazi is leading whole masses of people into mass formation psychosis. You may notice, if you even look up that term, that it has been ascribed to right-wing extremists. It's some kind of conspiracy theory from nationalists, from Trumpists, and so on and so forth. but it's not. It's a legitimate academic theory that has now been debunked by Reuters and all kinds of news outlets as just hogwash. This was even Jung's teaching. He was talking about mass psychosis. He saw it happening in the German population pre-World War II. It is a very well-established psychological insight and tradition to understand crowd psychology in this way. But now we're not allowed to see this because it makes us a Nazi. And so we have arrived in this place where the message is something like this. Do as you are told. Exactly as you are told. Obey the order. Otherwise you are a Nazi. And we're supposed to buy this hook, line, and sinker. We're supposed to take this as some sort of academically sound expert opinion. No. See, the narrative is falling apart. And so the overreaches far into La La Land, far into Alice in Wonderland territory are becoming more and more extreme and more frequent. This Trumpist label, this alt-right label, this right-wing extremist label is being exhausted of its sensational value. And, you know, there was a time when I was afraid of this. And I know that whenever I go online and I write something that's outside of the mainstream, there are people there like, oh, Ivan is becoming a Nazi. You know, but actually that might actually be like wrong and the exact opposite of what is happening. Do as you are told. Otherwise you are a Nazi. No. No. It doesn't work like that. You know, it doesn't work like that. And so be mindful that when this archetype of the Trumpist or the alt-right or whatever is being summoned, 9 times out of 10, it is being used as a powerful hypnotic induction for crowd control. So what I'm going to suggest is that we stop worshipping the cult of celebrity, that we stop being obsessed with Trump, whether you're for or against him. Stop, please stop. Instead, let us focus on getting congruent with what we're here to do in the world, aligning with the objective reality, going beyond this cult of subjectivity and relativity. Come on, like, let's get over with that, please. And just show up as ourselves. Bring ourselves to the world. It's not about Trump. It's about you and me. It's about us making this world better. And so please, media, please institutions, please politicians, stop it. We see through your propaganda, manipulation. It is making it easier and easier to see that you're not working for us. And please stop listening to them. So this Trumpist archetype, just discard it from your life. Don't be afraid of it. Stop being triggered by it. Stop allowing other people to control you through it, and just do your thing. And that's all I have for you today. See you next time.